Hey, everybody, it's Abe Brown here, and I'm really fortunate to be with Connie Jacob, and we're both from Certified Flourishing Coaching. And today we are super pumped because in as our interview guest today, we've got Corey, and he's going to be our interview guest here today. And we're just excited to listen and to learn a little bit about what he's up to. Now, if you don't know Corey, and of course, I'm going to assume that not everybody does, though I'm sure you're well known to your mom and your family and your friends and all the people who love you. And actually, you are quite well known. But interesting, I love your bio because it talks about the fact that you're multiple time TEDx and sought after keynote speaker. You are known as the speaker guy. And of course, you've shared the stage with everyone from John Maxwell to Deepak Chopra, to Stephen M.R. Covey, to General Hillier, and have had the opportunity to speak to literally hundreds of thousands of people, since you began your speaking journey. And, one of the things I love about you is listening to the passion that you have for helping people to share their message, right? I mean, at the end of the day, there's this thing inside of all of us, a voice that needs to be heard, that needs to be shared, a uniqueness. And I love the fact that it seems like have made it your life mission to help people to kind of get that out there. And so, welcome, Corey. And I don't know if you just want to start by, telling us a little bit about this passion that you've got.
Yeah, so thanks so much, Abe, and thanks for having me here as well, Connie. And so I guess in terms of the passion behind it, it kind of comes from a couple directions. In one respect, I actually got tricked into speaking, and a lot of people, it makes sounds weird to say tricked into it, but what happened was a number of years ago. Now, I was that guy that should never be on a stage, terrified, sweat coming down, shades of color, or almost passing out. So a lot of people think you're either born a speaker or you're not, and I'm living proof that's not the case. And also a lot of students I've worked with are proof that that's not the case, that you can learn this thing. But how I get tricked into it is I wrote a stage play for a Fringe festival, and at the end of the play, I had asked one of the actors, how do you think I could get comfortable getting on stages? Because I was the writer-director, not one of the actors. And he said, I'm going to a stand-up comedy workshop. Do you want to give that a go? And I said, that sounds terrifying. Yeah, let's do it. Because I felt going to the workshop doesn't mean you're ever going to get on a stage. That to me, that's just learning how to write. And so I went, and week number 3, we were filled a comedy club. It was really a nightclub. We've turned into a comedy club. Filled at 200 people on a Monday night, which is a really big show. And we were waiting for the entertainers that we were going to watch and learn from. And we found out with 5 minutes notice that we were those entertainers. And so wow. I had a choice, run out the front door, like 8 out of 15 of the people did, or stick around. I stuck around, jumped on the stage first, launched into my first joke. Now, they were still debating who was going to go up first. And I launched into my first joke to dead silence. But I figured I'm already up here. Let's go in deeper. I jumped in deeper. This time, not only dead silence, but tumbleweeds went by. And what I found out, Abe, is that the guy who put this all together called me over, gave me a schmuck in the back of the head, and he said, "You idiot, what are you doing out there? We haven't even turned the mic on to start the show yet." And that was how I started. And that's partly why, so this tells you why I was passionate about it, is I went back the next week, even though I bombed so horribly. And I kept going back. But what happened was at work, somebody said, did you meet someone, like a girl, or did you fall for someone, or did you start a relationship? Because you got this extra jump in your step and a smile on your face, an extra smile. And that was the clue that I was finding my passion. And so that evolved into speaking. That's why I'm so passionate about speaking. But also, now that I can look back and have this great reflection, and after getting questions so many times about how do you create a speaking career, how do you turn this into a business, how do you impact lives while creating an income, or in some people's cases, how do I just impact more lives? Getting all those questions, what happened was, at some point I was able to reflect back and see all the things that speaking gave me, in addition to getting my voice and my message out, which otherwise could have died inside of me. In addition to all that, my girlfriend, we met because of speaking. And we have 2 sons. I mean, that's really in a lot of ways indirectly because of speaking. So on the personal side, I'm passionate. But then on the professional side, speaking has played a part in how I became a Wall Street Journal USA Today bestselling author, how I get to speak on stage at Harvard, even though I barely graduated high school. To me, that's a big jump from those 2. I didn't know the difference between fiction and nonfiction when I graduated high school. And now I have 16 books out. A lot of that's from speaking. And I'm not saying all this as a me Inc., but to explain why I'm so passionate. because speaking did so much for me. But to finish it off, in addition to wanting people to get their message out to the world, a really big part of why I'm so passionate about helping people, whether it's about becoming an influencer, whether it's getting their message out, whether it's speaking, is because all those things I talked about took years and years to happen in the trenches. So for me to reflect back and say, look at all that's happened, I was almost 12 to 15 years into this speaking career, full-time as a paid speaker. But I recognize that if somebody would have been helping me, I could have done this in months or a year at the most versus 8 or 10. And we're proving that now. Because even like when I look at the people we've been helping on the influence side, and that includes speaking, but also helping them with writing, landing speaking gigs, we're seeing people do stuff that, again, it took me years. In fact, somebody that's affiliated with you, Rosalind Fung, did a testimonial recently saying that, and I didn't really make the connection, but within about 6 months of her joining one of our programs, she spoke on the stage at Harvard, shared the bill with Les Brown and Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen. And she also was able to get her podcast in the top 10% globally. What I'm saying is that stuff, Abe, would have taken me 8 to 10 years. And yet, because of all the work I've done over the years to build some connections and to understand how this stuff works, I'm able to shortcut that a bit for somebody. But think if I can help Rosalind do that in a matter of months, maybe that jumps her ahead a bit. And she was already impacting many lives before her and I ever met. But what I'm saying is that if that gets her new clients, and some of those are big clients that turn into big opportunities to reach who knows how many people, then indirectly, maybe I play a little tiny part of that. That's what drives me. So that was a long answer to say, that's what I'm passionate about, is seeing what it did for me and then knowing that it could have been quicker, and now hopefully helping people avoid some of those manholes I fell down.
You know what I found really fascinating about that whole story, Corey, is how you started. I think that like there's speaking, and then there's stand-up comedy. Like there's people who train for years before they get on a stage, and there you are just going for it right off the cuff. Like that's a whole other level of public speaking. So I just want to acknowledge your bravery and courage, and that's a really amazing story of how this all unraveled for you. I know you have such a compelling why, and I would love for you to tell our listeners, why do you care about people's messages getting out there in the world?
Well, first of all, I'll say thank you for that nice compliment, but I'll also add, Connie, that I would love to pretend that it was all bravery. But you know what's really wild is people ask me often, like, what got you on the stage that night? Because I told you how scared I was of speaking. And a lot of people left that were probably even slightly less scared than me of speaking. So what did it? Just to tell people, it's really weird because I haven't had many, quote unquote, what we might call an out of body experience. And it wasn't really an out of body experience per se, but it was this vision. I had this vision, for some reason, popped in my head as I was deciding in the bathroom, sweating, trying to find an exit window to jump out of instead of going back out to the stage. Didn't find the exit window. And I had this vision of me sitting at that same bar as an old man, watching some other group of comedians, sitting next to another old man saying, you know, I was going to do that one night. Maybe I should have. And the regret that I felt for that guy who hadn't gotten there yet was bigger than my fear of getting on the stage. And I don't know why I had the vision. I feel like it was just maybe that was the thing in my head that made me go and do it. But it was the regret was the only thing that pushed me. So I don't know if it was even necessarily huge bravery or more just that vision said to me, this is what's going to happen if you don't do it. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Also, to answer your question about my why, there's a couple of different directions there. So on one hand, I wrote, and I didn't have this intentionally next to me, but I wrote a book called The Book of Why and How. So it's funny you talk about your why. And so I wrote that book because I had found my why. By the way, starting at that stand-up comedy night, that's what started that whole thing. And so because I had found my why, which by the way, I'll tell people what it is. I've actually verbalized it, not really a word, but I've created a mission statement out of it, which is to be the guy who motivates, donates, inspires, educates, and entertains. Awesome. And so that was when I was the guy, like when I was out there speaking on my own. And so my why now is to be the person behind the person. So whether it's the girl or the guy that's getting on those stages, I've often, and this to me has become sort of the joke or the metaphor to me, Abe, is that I used to be the surfer on the board going, hey guys, look at me, I'm surfing. That was the speaker out on the stage with me and a mic. And now I feel like I'm the guy behind all those surfers, creating the wave for them. And it's multiple surfers that I'm hopefully building and bringing into the shore. And so what drives me, again, is seeing some of their successes, having somebody come and say, this happened to me. I never thought it would happen in my life. Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what drives it. And for me, the why is to create positive ripple in other people's lives. Going back to what we said earlier about also not wanting them to die with their message or their voice still inside. So that's,
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that, because when you actually think about all of the things that we have, maybe experienced that we love, maybe, the person that we're with or getting the job that we like or whatever, it's always been about us kind of having to balance regret versus risk, right? And the risk that I have to take to maybe ask this person out or apply for that job or look for that, starting that business or, make a sales pitch or whatever, I have to balance that against the regret of maybe this could have been the greatest thing that happened in my life. And do I really want to be looking back on that having missed it? So you have created what's called the Speakers Bootcamp, and that's going to be happening on February 4th, 5th, and 6th. Again, that's called the Speakers Bootcamp. So tell us, Corey, a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm happy to. And by the way, that would be a great book theme or subject is regret versus risk. Just want to put that out there, whether you do it, Abe, or somebody else listening does. Great book subject. And there's a title within there somewhere as well, I know. The 2 R's or something, whatever. There's a title in there somewhere. The Speaking Bootcamp essentially is, I'll say it this way, and it's not lesser than, but it's a condensed version almost of what we do in our main speaking program. So we have a speaking program that keeps getting bigger, and it has various components in it now, like how to land your brand at talk, which would be like a TEDx talk or Goalcast or what have you. There's various components, but the challenge with that is not everybody, can jump into the big program right away. B, the second part is they might not have time for the big program. And I'll go one step further and say C or 3. The other big challenge is sometimes people don't want to take the chance if they don't know who you are in your work yet. And so there's a various, I guess, different reasons why I finally decided, let's bring this to life. Now, I've done the live boot camps like this in the past, but this is the first virtual. And I was mentioning off air, what I love about it is there's people that may not have been able to fly for whatever reason to the place we were having the events before that can finally take part in this. But as far as the event itself, the idea behind it is to help you build your speaking business, like to teach you how to build a speaking business from scratch. Now, our main program, a lot of that is me teaching. What I love about this boot camp is we have special guests that are coming in as well. So I'm going to be teaching some of the high level stuff. For example, we're going to be doing a TEDx masterclass, like how to land your TEDx talk. We're going to be covering, and I say these are the ones I'm going to be covering, but how to craft a speech, a world-class speech from scratch. Going to be talking about how to get paid thousands every time you speak. And these are the questions I get asked about all the time. But then we have people like yourself coming in, Abe, talking about how you can leverage speaking to build a coaching practice. Or Rosalind, who we mentioned earlier, is going to be talking about finding your ideal client. We have somebody coming in, which is really cool because it's related, but also off topic in some ways, is how to land a USA Today or Wall Street Journal bestselling list. And I get asked about that all the time. Now, it ties directly into having a book, but it's also completely separate. So, if you're somebody who's a speaker already and you want to know how do I leverage it to get a book deal or get books out there, we have people coming in to talk about things like that. We have Kelly Filardo, who I think you know as well, Abe, but Kelly's going to be coming in talking about revealing her strategy for how to launch a bestseller and also how to leverage your book to get speaking engagements. And finally, and this is top of mind, there's probably 1 or 2 I'm missing. Finally, we have a guy named Dave Carroll, who wrote the song United Breaks Guitars, which has been heard by roughly 100 million people, his story. And Dave, I'm going to interview Dave about how to basically craft a signature talk. Because he took this one talk, traveled the world with it, and had about 7 years of speaking engagements without ever having to look for a gig, solely because of this one signature story that in a lot of ways fell on his lap. But you and I, all 3 of us know that a story can fall in your lap. You still need to know how to leverage it and turn it into a story. And he was a songwriter, so he was a storyteller anyway. But Dave was able to take that story, turn it into a Dave versus Goliath story, and bring it to stages all over, and even get a book deal with Hay House. And so I'm going to grill Dave about those things. So I say all this because it's kind of like a mix, a condensed version of my own program, but you're also going to get access to guests that I wouldn't have in my own program as well. So it's really, for 3 days, I can honestly say, it's the thing I wish I would have had years ago, because I probably spent 50,000+ to learn all of what a person's going to learn in these 3 days.
Sounds absolutely fantastic, Corey, and such value that you're going to give. I know that this is Blue Talks putting this on, and you have a certain type of demographic that really aligns so well with Blue Talks. but who is this for? Obviously, it's for people who want to speak, but is there anyone in particular that you think this person has got to be here?
Yeah, so thanks for asking that. And I guess we didn't say the price, so I can say that it's $97 Canadian we're talking about here. So we're not talking the thousands that normally a program would cost for a person to go through. So to answer the question as far as we'll say target ideal client or ideal attendee, I would say that it's basically somebody who, and I want to talk about in 1 second too about the networking, because there's some people that would fit in really well here, even if they're not somebody who wants to build a speaking business. But to answer the question as far as who would I point it to and say, you're the perfect fit for this, I would say, first of all, it's people that right now are in practices like healing. So a healer would be a great fit, a speaker, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second, a coach, also a lifestyle entrepreneur. And so when I say that, here's why they would be a good fit. So if we talk about a speaker, if you're a speaker who still isn't getting paid to speak, and that is your goal, you want to actually build a speaking business, you need to be at this event. But also you might say, well, I've always wanted to learn a TEDx talk, but I have no clue how to start. Then you want to be at this event. So I would say any speaker who's not already either, if this is their goal, earning at least 6 figures speaking, which by the way, that's a large percentage of speakers that aren't earning 6 figures. I could give you the stats, it's lower than people think. But anyway, it's that person. It's a person that says, I know if I landed a TEDx talk, I could leverage it for so much else. So a speaker that's in those categories would fit. Somebody who's doing speaking as a side hustle, but wants to ramp that up would be a good fit. A coach who wants to actually leverage speaking to get more coaching clients would be a good fit. And when I say a healer, a lot of healers, the struggle they have is they are creating so much light in the world, but they're struggling to keep the lights turned on. There's no other way I can say it, but a lot of healers that are coaches as well struggle with, how do I put food on the table? And so we're going to show them how to create a side hustle out of this knowledge you have and be comfortable telling people this is what I charge for this. But then the last part I said, business owner, whether it's solopreneur or entrepreneur, is speaking is one of the best platforms to actually raise awareness around your business. So you might get out and you might be speaking without ever wanting to get paid a penny directly from speaking, but solely to build your brand on those stages. If you can go out and get in front of 500 people as the expert and teach them about what you teach, you can build a massive brand, even if you never want to be a paid speaker. As an example, I used to have a brand called Island Business News, which was a newspaper, and excuse me, it turned out to be a lot more like a book series and stuff like that. Just give you an example. First, basically, event we put on, when I asked people in the room, how many people have heard of Island Business News? And there was like 200 people in the room. It was like 3 people. We were just starting. We were like months in. I asked that question a little over a year later. And I mean, I don't know if the numbers in the room are the exact same, but basically 95% of the hands put their hands up. Only marketing we had done was those live events for a year. What I'm saying is speaking is a brilliant way to let people know you're the expert and to actually raise awareness. Even if you think about it, if it's a dentist who's running a dental practice and you have one dentist that you just watched their TEDx talk and the other one, you don't know who they are, and you're going, okay, which one should I book? And let's say the price was equal and you could get in to see the one with the TEDx talk. Chances are almost every person listening would go with the TEDx one, or if they wrote the book on it, the other one did. So Connie, and I know that was a long answer about who's a good fit, but it's because there's more than just a speaker. It's, again, a speaker who's trying to go next level. It's a coach who wants to leverage speaking and platforms to get more people. It's a business owner who wants to bring more awareness around their business. And it's a healer or somebody who's struggling to make ends meet, that this could be a perfect side hustle for them.
I love that, Corey, and we're so excited about this. I remember, because I've taught quite a bit of speaking classes myself, and there was a gentleman who came, and he was a class 1 power engineer, and these are like the most technical of the most technical individuals, and he was scared to death of speaking. And I remember saying to him, "Why are you taking this course?" And he said, "Because even though my work is entirely technical, I often have to give presentations to rooms filled with executives, because they need to know, why are we spending this money? Why are you making this recommendation versus that one?" And it was just amazing to watch this guy's transformation over these 2 days. He came in, classic sort of tech guy, wouldn't really make eye contact, just really more comfortable in front of a spreadsheet than on a stage. And by the end of that weekend, it was amazing. And then I talked to him later, and the impact this had on his career, because he was always brilliant. There was no question about his raw intelligence, unlike mine. People question that all the time. But the problem is you can be super smart, but if you don't know how to get your message across, then frankly, it's going to be lost. And so I love that passion. So this is happening, Corey, February 4th, 5th, and 6th. And really exciting. It's all online, which is awesome. So that means people can get involved in this from wherever they are. And I'm assuming that folks will they have access to recordings or some extra tools, things like that, or what's happening there?
So, another great question, and I'll add one thing because I mentioned about the networking, and I don't want to forget that part, because I will tell you, I've been doing live events, not this one, but other live events now since COVID started. I've been doing more of them, and we have our Blue Talks live events, like our actual. We do it usually every second month, and we've had thousands of people tune in for those, and have as many as 30 speakers in a week come on. What I will tell you is when we do the breakouts, I can feel the energy of people buzzing. Like, people now that can't get out traveling love breakouts on Zoom. Well, the thing about this event, which blows my mind, we're well over 200 paid and registered now. So, and the one, usually when somebody pays, they're going to be there for at least some of it live, if not all of it. And so what that blows my mind around is our events that we do for Blue Talks and other things like that. Like, we have a Zoom call that's a networking one. Now it's only to Blue Talks people, but we'll have 40 people, and people are buzzing because all the people they met. So think about 200 and some people, and we have more time to break out more often. So there might be 15 breakouts, and if there's 5 people each time, I mean, you could meet 75 people that you now know for your business. So I don't want to not add that
Love
part.
it.
So that's going to happen. We're going to facilitate lots of breakouts. So to answer your question directly about replays, yes, we're going to do replays of the main sessions. Obviously, it wouldn't make sense to replay breakouts. You don't want to just watch people network with each other, or most people wouldn't be able to do that. And not only that, I think we all have recognized that we all say, is there a replay? But if it's like 15 hours of replay, you keep looking at it going, I just can't find the time. And you don't even start almost. So we're going to just send out the main sessions. But having said that, I would say the networking, if you can attend live, the networking is the reason you want to be there live. If you can't attend live, if the only way you can do this is to get the replay, the answer is yes, we're going to do a replay. And what's really cool, I mean, for better or worse, because we may change this in the future, we're not charging like a VIP price to give access to the replays, where most people do, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we're not. And people always ask me now, it's changed a lot. And people never used to ask, they just assumed it was lifetime access. So people have been asking me a lot, how long will I have access? And our plan right now is 6 months. The second question I get is, where can I access it? Because a lot of times people say, here's your email with the link, but then you have to keep searching for the link. So we're going to put it inside our Teachable website where we have our other programs. And then you'll have a login and you can just go in whenever you want to watch it. So there will be replays of the main sessions. We will send them out after the event. But I would say, of course, if a person can be there live, even if, and this is another thing, I hate sometimes whenever you hear about an event like this and somebody doesn't sign up and they never tell you because they think, well, I could only be there on the Saturday. What I would say is, this event, even if you can be there one day, when you consider the networking, would be worth being there the one day, knowing that you're still going to get the recordings anyway. So that's my short answer of yes, recordings, but also I highly recommend people be there live, because I can honestly say, other than an event like a Tony Robbins event or something like that, when I sign up for events, I can't think of many where there's been over 200 people on the Zoom at once.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, so just one quick final question then, Corey, what's, I'm going to we'll send out the registration information in the comments below and all of that. So people can have a clean path to registration, and we're going to get this out right away so people can. What, if you had to sum up in sort of a couple of statements, what's the big thing that they're going to walk away with if they are saying, hey, like, really, what's in it for me? And you've already painted that picture, but sometimes folks, they like that last final push. So what would you say about that?
So I would say that, when I talk, I pass in passing and throughout here, I've talked about things like the TEDx talk or the speech, creating a speech. I mean, that's one of the biggest questions I get, which shocked me when I started down this path, is how do I craft a speech? Like, how do I craft a talk? But on top of that, Abe, and you probably see this, if I'm not a person that wants to memorize, how can I craft a talk I don't have to memorize? We're going to talk about that. And by the way, I don't memorize my talks. I've delivered over 3,000 talks. I've maybe memorized 50. Yeah, I've memorized every one of my TEDx talks. I want to put that out there. But most of my talks, I have a framework, like, for example, a picture of you And I know now I have a 5-minute story about Abe. And I don't have to do anything else. That picture tells me here's what I'm going to talk about. By the way, that came from my stand-up world. I used to write like my 5 headers for my jokes on my hand. And all I need to see was that one word, and that would tell me the whole joke. And then
Totally.
eventually I realized you're not supposed to do that in comedy. That's like a no-no to have it written on your hand. But the point is, all I needed to even then remember was the 5 subheaders. So for me, I can have a PowerPoint, a picture of somebody on it, and that's really the trigger. So to answer the question as far as what's a person going to leave with, here's what I would say on the front end is knowledge. You're going to actually walk away with the comfort that I finally get the speaking business. I finally understand how this business works, because behind the curtain, by the way, it took me so many years to learn this business. I had no mentors when I started. I didn't know about speaking associations, so I had to learn it in the trenches. So first of all, you're going to get a lot of the stuff you're like, I can't even start because I'm so paralyzed by not understanding. You're going to get the knowledge. And I do believe that applied knowledge is power. So when you get that knowledge and you do something with it, it's power. And I think that a lot of times we get paralyzed because we just don't know where to start. So you're going to know where to start. And then the second thing is, we're actually going to give you strategy for how you can apply these things. Like, for example, how can you actually land your TEDx talk? You know, some people will decide they want to learn more from me about that or be guided through it, but you will get enough that you can start the process of literally applying for TEDx talks and actually having a head start over everybody else. So what I'm getting at with that is you're going to get knowledge you can use the next day to execute on. And then also, I'd like to believe that you're going to walk away with business relationships that will turn into lots of great opportunities later. So for instance, I've met some of my greatest joint venture partners at events like this, where I've been networking with people. Walked away with client business, like actually clients for my speaking programs from events like this. So you're going to walk away, if you go and apply yourself, with actual relationships with integrity-based people that you might do business with down the road. And somebody there could say, you know what, I have a small publishing company. I'd love to publish your book now that I've heard your story. I mean, that sounds crazy, but those things happen. And so, in fact, one of our students just shared with me that she just landed a book deal with a New York publisher through one of the events we ran.
Yeah.
So you just never know. So you're going to walk away with those great business relationships, I'm hoping, that you can use, and the knowledge of how to do it and somebody facilitating that. Then you're also going to walk away with knowledge around the speaking business, so it doesn't seem so scary. And then if you're somebody who isn't getting paid yet, you're going to finally get to understand how you can start getting paid. And I will give a little bit of a hint. We're wanting to make this feel like a live event in every sense of the word. There's a lot of things we're going to be doing. Like, I'm going to be standing up for this with the headset on. We're going to have multiple angles, but we're also going to air clips. Some of them I haven't ever aired before, by people like Les Brown, Lisa Nichols, Mark Victor Hansen. In interviews with them, Mark Victor Hansen revealing his bypass marketing strategy, which helped him sell 600 million books. And I'm not saying that number wrong. Les Brown, I mean, one of the most sought after speakers of all time, talking about how he's still getting bookings during COVID. Lisa Nichols talking about her secret sauce. So we're gonna have little clips, almost like if you went to a TEDx and they showed the Simon Sinek video on the wall to show it a classic video. We're gonna share some stuff that's never been shared in relation to the topic. And it might just be a 5-minute video, but then we're gonna dive into what Les just shared.
That's so good, you know, and I just love that, Corey. So, hey, folks, you know, get registered. We're going to put all of the information to do that in the link below. $97. I mean, you can't go wrong for that price. And absolutely, it's 100% worth it. You know, if I could just say on a side note, I like the fact that you're a PEI guy. You know, we're Canadian and we love the Maritimes. I spent about 9 years living in the Maritimes myself, and I think it's great, you know, sort of island guy made big, you know, and I know you represent your proud province so good, and we're so grateful for this connection. And so thanks so much, Corey. And we'll see you at the event at the Speakers Bootcamp. I can't wait to see you there and to hear you and to hear many others and to make my contribution as well. So thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Connie. Thanks so much, Abe. So